Hello. Welcome to You Can Talk. Hello, everyone. My name is Ruth Finney, and tonight we have an exciting night. This is open forum tonight. We're going to be talking about the things that we missed in the dating phase of our relationship that may have turned out to be an issue when we, either got married or, got into a longer phase or a more serious phase of the relationship. So that is what we're going to be talking about tonight. I'm going to wait a few minutes and see if anyone pops in. Just getting started here. Let people come on in. I appreciate those who are watching. And I'm looking forward to tonight's conversation because I hope that we are going to learn a lot. I think we're going to learn a lot about those little things that we miss. This week, I had put out a lesson on what did I miss? And I was kind of talking about things that we miss that we're just not paying attention to. And the bottom line is that people communicate in different ways. And because people communicate in such different ways, we miss the different things that we need to be paying attention to. Hi, Eve. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome in. I'm just chit-chatting here for a minute. I was just going to give an opportunity for people to come in. I'm so thankful that you're here. I appreciate you so much. I hope you're staying warm wherever you are. I know it's pretty much freezing around the country right now. Even down here in Texas, we're having to stay pretty warm. So, hey, Andrea, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome in. Hey, Janine, how are you? Welcome. We have an exciting conversation this night. I think it's going to be quite a revealing conversation. I know back towards the beginning of the year, I told you all that I was going to be, more open with you all and sort of exposing my life a little bit more to you all. I was kind of intentionally not so exposing of myself the first year that I was here on YouTube, but I think it's officially been a year now. Last weekend, I think was like my official 1 year mark. So, I think you all have kind of gotten a feel for me and a little bit about who I am, a little bit more about who I am and stuff. So I'm going to be sharing some things with you all tonight. And hopefully you all be willing to share some things with me as well that you all may have missed. Hey, Unbroken, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome. Blessings to you. Congratulations. Am I getting that? Oh, yeah, it has been a year. Yes. So I've been on YouTube a year. So thank you. Welcome. I'm just giving a minute for folks to come on in. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all so much. This is going to be a good conversation because we're going to learn some things tonight about ourselves and about each other, hopefully. So it should be pretty good. If for those of you all who may have missed my lesson, I put out a tip, I believe it was on Thursday. What did I miss? Where I was talking about, hey, Chef, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome. Welcome in. Hello, Apostle. How are you? Good to see you. Blessings to you. Good to see you. Nikki, how are you? Hey, good to see you. Welcome in. We're going to be chatting it up tonight. We're going to be chatting it up about things that we missed in the dating phase of our relationships or in those beginning phases of our relationships. Thank you. Yes, I've been on YouTube officially a year now, and it has been quite the experience. But it's been fun. I wouldn't trade a single thing about it. I truly wouldn't. Hey, Cousin Paul, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome. Thank you for popping in. We're going to learn some things tonight. You all are going to learn some stuff about me, and hopefully I'm going to learn some things about you all. And hopefully the things that we learn about each other that we missed in the beginning dating phases of our relationship will be some eye-opening things for others in the chat who may not have realized who may be missing some things or may even still be struggling with some stuff in your relationships right now. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about. Hey, Walker Family TV, good to see you. Welcome. Good to see you all. So yes, that's the stuff we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of get started. So I give everyone plenty of time. I'm going to be dropping the link tonight for those of you all who may want to come up and share with us something that you may have missed. I'm going to start off with the sharing so you all can kind of get a feel for what we're going to be talking about and the kind of stuff that I'm going to be sharing. My husband and I have been married for 6 years now, going on 7 next November. Yeah, so we just made our 6-year mark. Hey, Minister Terrence, how are you? Oh my goodness, my son had such a phenomenal time enjoying seeing those monster trucks. So he just would not take his TV off my phone screen. He loves seeing those monster trucks. I know your son, seeing the elation in his face, I know he enjoyed that too. So yeah, such a huge, exciting thing for them. So hopefully we'll get to do that one day as well. All right. So like I was saying, we been married about 6 years and we dated a year before we got married. The second time around, because remember, we knew each other. For those of you who don't know, I dated my husband when I was much younger for 5 years. We dated for 5 years from the time that we were 19 to 23. But, we were young and both had our own things that we wanted to be doing in life and going in different ways. So we did not get married back then. So I had other things I was trying to do. He had things he was trying to do. We didn't get married. But anyway, we met up again 13 years later, dated for about a year, and ended up getting married. So long story short, there's always things that you don't anticipate when you get married, right? Things always happen in a marriage that you don't think about, or just even when you've been in a relationship for an extended period of time, things pop up that you just don't foresee coming. And so you'll find yourself very often thinking, waking up, looking at your spouse, wondering, what did I miss? How did I not see this? When you start looking at the things that you struggle with in your marriage, and why they're problems, you start looking back. The first thing we do is start looking back. Like, how did I miss this? Like, what did I miss? How did I not know this about my spouse? Or why didn't they tell me this? Why weren't they more forthcoming with this information that is critical, that I should have known? And so first we blame them for not telling us, right? And then we blame ourselves for not paying attention or not noticing. So whatever the situation is, it can always be something that can cause us to, want to look back. So that's what I want to look back at today, those things that we miss. I'm going to share with you all some things that I missed and some things that my husband missed about me. And then I'll drop the link for you all to share with us some things that you all may have missed. Hello, Vernell. Good to see you. Welcome in. Good to see you. So the first one I'm going to talk about is privacy. Okay, so my husband and I are both very social people. We enjoy, hanging out together and, hanging around people. We enjoy people for the most part. But one of the things that I missed was that my husband is very big on his privacy and his personal space. So that being said, I completely missed that in the dating phase of our relationship. Now, he is the type of person that he enjoys hanging out with folks. He enjoys having a good time, enjoys other people's company. But when he's ready to leave, he's ready to leave. And when he's in his own personal space, he doesn't too much care to have too many other people in his personal space with him. That's his downtime. Home is his downtime. It's his place of peace and relaxation and rest and all of that. And for me, I'm the complete opposite. I'm an extrovert. I enjoy being around people. I love being around people, and I love people being around me and in my personal space. It doesn't bother me. I absolutely have those times where I like to have my time alone. And when I do that, I'm typically out in nature somewhere, right? I'm taking a hike, or I'm going to see a movie by myself, or just spending some time by a lake or a river, or just doing some things that I enjoy, reading, going to the ocean. I'll go down to the coast. It's about a 2-hour drive from me, and I'll go down to the coast and hang out down there by myself. So I do believe in having your personal alone time. But my home is open, So one thing that I missed when we were when we were dating is that when we would socialize, we were always at other people's homes, or we were out in public places with other people. And I miss the fact that when we were socializing, he never had gatherings at his house. Now, in all fairness, let me be fair. Vernell says, love is blind in the beginning. You have blind spots where you can't see anything until down the line in the relationship. You're absolutely right about that. Hello, living your best life. Welcome in, welcome in. Now, in all fairness, let me tell you, my husband did tell me, okay, he did verbally express to me that he was not the person where, just in our regular conversations, that he was not the type of person where his house was like the party house, right? Because he grew up, his family were very social, and his home, the home that he grew up in, was always very open. The social gatherings were happening there every weekend. And so when he grew up and he could have his own space, that just wasn't something that he wanted. He didn't want to be the party house. And I thought to myself, of course, nobody really wants to be the party house, right? So, I never thought of my home as the party home, so to speak, but social gatherings, absolutely, that I would have social gatherings. So so we dated, we had a wonderful courtship, and, got engaged, got married. And the very first thing we did was we built a home. We built our home. So this is when things first started to show up, right? So when we were looking at floor plans and how we were going to build our house and what we wanted, I was looking at the floor plans with the thought in mind, okay, well, how many people can I sleep in this room? Or, when people come over, where's the seating going to be and all that kind of stuff. And he would look at me kind of like, we're not buying a house for other people. He's like, we're going to be living in this home. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I mean, people are going to be coming over, and, I want to make sure we have places for them to sleep, family, friends, and this and that. And he just kind of looked at me, so that was something that he missed. We both missed this in each other, right? So then we finally settled on a home floor plan that we felt each was going to work for us. And therefore we had the house built, and then the furniture was time to pick furniture. This is where we missed number 2. I was looking at furniture that would allow for maximum seating, right? I need enough chairs. I need extra chairs. I need extra seating, things that can something that can turn into seating when I need an extra chair for somebody. I need, 6 to 8 chairs around the dining table. Because, if people come over and want to eat, I want to make sure everybody has a seat at the table, and so on and so forth. Right. And he's like, we don't need that many chairs. And I was like, no, I need to be able to sit like 25 people in here. He's like, no, we're never going to have 25 people in here. Right. And I'm thinking, yeah, we are, so we're back and forth with this. And, we would even get into debates or discussions or arguments, even if you want to say, as to how many bar stools we needed to have at the bar, right? Our counter where people can sit at the bar and eat. I felt we needed to have 5. And he said, we only need 3. I was like, 3? We need 5. We could sit 5 people up here. And he's like, I don't ever want to sit 5 people up here. 3 is enough. So we would go back and forth. I mean, literally back and forth about how many bar stools we needed, and this, so on and so forth. So that was something that we absolutely missed, because it ended up becoming, an issue in our relationship later down the line, because when it came time to, who's going to host Thanksgiving, who's going to host Christmas, who's going to, with the family, I was the first to want to raise my hand, like, oh, let's y'all all come over here. And he's like, no, put your hand. No, we're not hosting anything. And I'm like, but why not? And so anyway, we ended up hosting. And we did have, plenty of seating, and come to find it was his family that we ended up, doing our first hosting. But, these were things that we missed, down the line, because he didn't pick up on the fact that because I was a social butterfly, because I was, a person that likes to, host things and have family and friends over and share my home with people, he never thought about that would one day be our home, that I would be hosting these gatherings in. So he missed that about me, and I missed about him that wasn't necessarily something that he would ever volunteer to do. So needless to say, that became something that we had to work our way through and compromise on, so on and so forth. So, all these little things that can be issues in the beginning part of the relationship that we need to be paying attention to, because the bottom line is what you see in the beginning or dating phase of a relationship, you need to believe it, because people are communicating with us all the time, even when they're not saying anything. But we ignore. We make assumptions, we make excuses, we say things like, oh, well, I'll fix that, or I'll change that, or, that'll be different once we get married type situation. And people are honestly trying to tell us things. It's very difficult to hide your character and who you are, cover up the character of your true self when you are in a dating relationship. I mean, you're not going to see it. People aren't going to tell you everything when you're dating. We just don't, right? We show up with our best selves. We show up, with our representative, at the forefront of who we are. So that means, because that's the person we're getting, we have to pay so much more attention to the actions and the different things that the person is doing, so that we can pick up on stuff, because those little things that you think aren't a big deal are the very things that are going to show up later in your marriage and in your relationship that may end up being a bigger deal than you realize. Okay, let me take a look at the comments and see who's popped in. Hey, Kiki, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome. Good to see you, sis. Yes, they are telling you this is who I am, but we don't want to believe it. Absolutely. That is so true. Puddles can end up being lakes later. Oh, I love that. That is so true. Yes, they're telling us who we are, but we don't want to believe it. And little things that start out as puddles can absolutely end up being Great Lakes later. Very, very true. So I wanted to have this conversation so that we could also just pay attention to some of the things that we need to be picking up on when we're in the dating phase. So here's the second one. That was issue number one of a little thing that I missed that ended up being a very big thing in our marriage. And to this day, we are still careful about, what I ask, what I talk about, or what I talk about here on the show, what I share with you all, how much of my life I open up to you all, because the bottom line is, when you're married, it's not just you, things that I would have done before I got married, things that I would have shared with you all or said to you all, I wouldn't have thought twice about. But now that I'm married, I have to take my spouse into consideration and realize that not everything that I want to share with you all, he may not want to share with you all. So of course, I had to talk with him about, hey, I'm going to have this conversation tonight. This is what I want to share. Got the okay, so we're good to go. And that's the way marriage is sometimes. Hey, in Rachel's place, good to see you. Welcome in, welcome in. So here's number two, the second thing. Here's the second area things that we missed, okay, that ended up being a lake for us later. Lots of marriages, I mean, there are all kinds of reasons that marriages break up, right? Money, how we look at money, how we handle money, privacy, like there's all these big topics and areas of discussion. Hey, Taylor, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. That can break up a marriage. It's often not love that breaks up a marriage. It's usually other things. It's usually all the other things that can break up a marriage. But finances is a huge one. And we hear people all the time talk about, money is a big deal in marriage. You got to pay attention to money, which is the absolute truth. It's the absolute truth. And the issue with the money is how we look at it, how we see the money, right? It's less the fact that we don't have enough of it. It's more the fact that how we look at it and respect it. So typically one person will look at money and have a lot of respect for it, and they're paying attention, and they're very careful about how they spend their money, and the other person is completely frivolous and could care less. Right. And so it's typically more, when it comes to finances, it's typically more of an issue of how the two people look at money versus the money itself. Okay. People think it's, well, they didn't make enough money, or they don't work hard enough. They're not bringing in enough money. It's rarely that. It's more often than not how they look at the money, how they respect the money, and how money is treated in the marriage that can break up the marriage. So here was our issue number 2, that little thing that I missed that he missed. Burnell says, yes, money has to have an assignment for everything you do. After you pay your tithes, that makes her life flow better. If you don't have that, it's going to be a mess. Yes, I agree with you. But Burnell, not everyone feels the same as that. I do agree with you on that. So here was the second thing that popped up. My husband and I both work. We both are, working class family, been working my whole life. I never was the woman that kind of wanted to be that stay-at-home mom. That just kind of wasn't in my DNA. I have all the respect in the world for the stay-at-home moms, and I take my hats off to you all. I have no disrespect. I think it is a job that is made for a saint. But I have never wanted to be one of those stay-at-home moms. And so we had that conversation up front. Are you okay with me working? Because I don't want to stay home. Like, that's just, I'm too social. I like to stay busy. I like to be productive. I like to feel like I'm making a difference in the world somewhere. And being a stay-at-home mom was just not something that I ever saw myself doing. And so he was okay with that. He's like, I'm okay. You want to work? That's fine. But yada, yada. And that's what we did. And that's what we still do. However, my husband and I grew up differently, and how we, look at money and see money and all that is very different. So here's where we missed the little things that we should have picked up on. So I'm the type of person. Well, here's where it started in the dating phase that I missed it. Here's where it started. I would go to the store. Not in the day. We were married at this time. But there was probably some things in the dating phase too. But I would go to the store, buy a pair of pants, and come home. He's like, oh, how much were those? How much did you pay for those pants? Those are nice pants, or something like that. He might say something like that. And I would kind of, look at him and be like, I'm not sure. I would have to go grab the receipt. He's like, you don't know how much you pay for the pants? And I was like, not off the top of my head. No, I said, I'm going to go grab the receipt. And so he would say, so that was probably clue number 1 for him that he missed. He's like, how do you not, you just bought the pants. How do you not know how much you pay for them? And I would say, I just don't. I don't know. I didn't think about it. I needed the pants. The pants fit. I liked the pants. I bought the pants, So I didn't, it wasn't a second thought in my mind about how much they were. I put them on, they fit. I liked them. I purchased them. That was the end of story for me. But for him, it was like, you need to know how much you paid for the pants. And so we would go back and forth about, he's like, you're frivolous with money. I'm concerned about that. I think you don't pay attention, and this and that. And of course, I'm defending myself. Of course I do. I budget. I spend my money wisely. I do this. I do that. So here was his next question. Ruth, how much is a gallon of milk? Is this a trick question? I was like, I don't know how much a gallon of milk is. He's like, Ruth, you buy milk every week. And I was like, I know that. He's like, so how much is a gallon of milk? I was like, I don't know. I don't know how much a gallon of milk is. I grab it. I need it. I see it. I put it in my basket and I go. Right. So this was where, things became an issue. Now so that's what, he may have been picking up on, but didn't have a full understanding of it. Now, here's what I missed. We would go out to dinner or something, or he have a purchase, and I don't care what it was. If he was buying a pack of gum or a Snickers, or he would look at the receipt, or anytime we went to dinner, he would check, make sure everything was right, and that there were no mistakes being made. And so I was like, is it right? Can we pay the bill now? And he'd be like, yeah, I just need to make sure, that things are what they're supposed to be. So, I thought, oh, well, that's great. But I didn't pick up on how important, detail and attention to money was. And so needless to say, into the marriage, I put our monies together, and I would buy things for the house that we needed, and I didn't worry about if how much it costed or this or that, and until he started looking at the account, and he's like, oh, you purchased this and you purchased that. I'm like, yeah, we needed this, we needed these curtains, we needed this wall picture or whatever it was. I see something we needed, and my excuse was, we need this item. Right? And his excuse was, do we really need it? Do we really need 5 of them? Because I'm thinking, right, if I need 5 towels, I bought 5 of them because we're going to have company or guests one day. And they all need to be able to have a fresh, clean towel. We didn't need 5 of them, Ruth. We only maybe needed 3. It's only, or 2. It's only 2 of us in this house. So anyway, this was kind of the stuff that became things that we would talk about in our marriage that ended up that we should have been paying attention to, that we missed later down the line, because later those things ended up becoming things that we would have debates about, or strong debates, or strong dialogue about, should I say. Okay. So that's just an example of some things that we miss. I'm going to look through your comments. Let's see. Mine was bad with finances. I was always trying to be careful and save, and I guess he was not. Taylor says, that's exactly how my wife and I are. I'm like, I don't need anyone over, and she wants to play hostess. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we have managed to come to some compromise on, what we allow each other to be ourselves, but we stop getting angry about, how we are and who we are. But we've also learned to be more mindful of each other. So I'm mindful of the fact that, there's never going to be a surprise visit. I always let him know, hey, such and such is about to come over. Do you mind them coming over? Blah, 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 whatever the situation is. And so we talk about it, and, but I make sure that I don't just volunteer for, every little thing that pops up. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the chat. I just want anyone who cares to share things that you may have missed in your relationship, or in the dating phase of your relationship, or in the beginning parts of your marriage, or whatever, that you later were able to, that became issues for you all later in the marriage. Come up and share with us a couple things that may have been issues for you. And if you all were able to do something about it, fine. If not, or if it's still a struggle for you, that's fine. Maybe we can talk about some different things that you all can do that may be helpful. But the bottom line is that, marriage is give and take, and we have to pay attention. There's a lot of little, and I don't even really necessarily want to call these red flags, because red flags are things that can be bad, but these aren't necessarily things that are bad, right? They're just things we need to be paying attention to, because it can affect how we move in the marriage. It can affect how we move in the relationship. For instance, Vernell talked about tithing. One of you may feel that it's important for you to tithe, and another person may feel like we don't need to tithe, or we can't afford to tithe. And that can be an issue if you don't talk about it, if you don't share how you feel about it, those things that are very important to you. When we're in the dating phases of our relationships, we can be so in love and so happy and excited and want to be married so badly that we don't think about things. We don't pay attention to things that we should be paying attention to. It's often when you get older that you kind of discover yourself more. And I think sometimes this is what makes it difficult, even sometimes for second and third marriages, is that you have to kind of get to know yourself. You have to kind of get to know who you are as a person, what you like and what you don't like. And sometimes we have to be strong enough to say, you know what, I'm seeing this. And this is okay for now because we're just dating. But I know if we were married, this would be a big issue for me. And we will overlook those things. We will overlook those things and just, ignore them because we want to be married so bad. Our clock is ticking. We're worried about growing old. Who's going to take care of us when we get older if I don't settle down with somebody? All that kind of stuff. And so we choose to ignore them, or we think that it's going to be okay. And then we accept it. We get in the marriage and boom, it's a problem from day one. Okay. Let me see here. Living your best life. You have to respect each other and give room to grow. Absolutely. Unbroken says mine were red flags that I ignored. Yeah, there can be red flags as well. Yeah, for sure. I had a pastor once that said something so true to me, and it just stuck with me. I remember being young. I was like, 18, 19 years old. And he said, pay attention to when you're dating. Of course, he's speaking to me as a woman, but I can see how this applies to a man as well. And he would say, pay attention to how he, if you want to know the type of person he is, does he cheat on his taxes? Does he cheat when he's playing checkers or spades, or when he's playing games? Does he lie to his family, his mother or his sisters or his friends about little things? These were all little things that we need to pay attention to. He goes, because if he's doing those types of things around you in his relationships with his friends and his family and the way he moves and does business, then he's going to do those things in the marriage. And I thought that was the wisest information that I had ever gotten, because I never thought about that. I had never thought about, we always think that if they do it, they may do this, but when they're with me, they don't do that. So when we're married, they're not going to do that, when that's just not the truth. They may not do it at the time, but if it's who they are, and if it's who they've always been, you can rest assured that it's going to show up somewhere in the marriage later. Very likely. It's very likely. Now, I'm not saying that people don't change. People do change. The Lord does change people, but some things about a person's character will flow with them forever, and they have to work on that change. They have to be conscious of that change always. Chef says, after my fire husband passed away, it was just me and Brittany. So when I married again, I kept operating as a single woman as it pertains to spending, having long-term guests and life decisions. Yes. That is a very good point. I love that you brought that up, Chef. We can get so caught up in how we usually function. And gosh, you're bringing all kind of thoughts in my head. But when we get used to being by ourselves and functioning alone, it can be hard to trust ourselves or trust the other person enough to let them in and develop to become one in the marriage. We tend to get used to having to do things on our own, having to make our own decisions, having to be responsible for ourselves. And if you have a child, being responsible for the child. And then when you enter back into marriage, to have to put that down or open yourself up again or humble yourself enough to allow your mate to take on some of the responsibilities, to take on some of the tasks even that you're used to having to take on. And another area we get in trouble with that is maybe we trust them to do it, but if they don't do it the way we want it done, or if it wasn't good enough to our standards, then we prefer they don't do it, or we'll take it back from them immediately, right? Which basically is telling our spouse that we don't trust them. We don't trust you. I don't trust you to handle this. I don't trust you to do this. I can't trust you to take care of the situation, so I'm going to do it myself, Or we like to maintain the fact that I'm fully functional and independent on my own, and I don't need you. And so we feel like we constantly have to prove to this person that I don't need you. which makes a person feel like, okay, well, if I'm not needed, then I may not need to be here. So, and we have to be careful with that. We have to be careful with the messages that we're putting out, and the messages that we're not seeing that the other person is putting out. Because honestly, if you're having a hard time being willing to give over a task, right, or to share, let's just keep it simple. If you're unwilling to share your life with a person, then you're going to carry that into your marriage, and you're not going to be willing to share your finances. You're not going to be willing to share your job, your personal feelings, your thoughts, your personal space with another person. And that's going to be a problem in the marriage. And so when people look back and look at their marriages and try to figure out, well, what happened? Why is this not working? Why are we struggling? Well, we have to think about the messages that we're sending, because even though sometimes our mouths aren't saying things, our bodies and our actions and the way we respond to things and react to things can make a huge difference in what people are feeling and how they're responding to us. So that was great, Chef. Burnell says, believe in extra because it's better to have it and not eat, and to eat it and not have it. Also be frugal with it. Catch it on sale, use coupons from the store, you go. Yes. And Vernell, that was my excuse. I did that, that didn't make a huge difference for me and my husband, because I would say to him, oh, well, I bought it because it was on sale. So for me, because it was on sale, it was okay for me to make that purchase, right? I didn't pay full price for it. So of course I had to get it. Or I had a coupon. It was 50% off. I did use coupons. But, sometimes it was just the fact that we still may not have needed it, or may not have needed as much of it, because I had a coupon for it, or because it was on sale. So, yeah, it just varies. So many different things come into play with that. You have to write a list. What is your deal breaker, and what can you deal with in a relationship? That's first and foremost. Now, that's the key right there. That is the key. What is your deal breaker? You hit the nail on the head with that. When we're dating in relationships, we have to look at the person and look at the things that they're doing, the things that they're saying, the things that we absolutely don't like, right? We're good at making lists, especially women, right? Women are really good at making lists. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. I want him to have this. I want her to have that, yada, yada, yada. But we don't think about, on that thing that we don't like, if those things never change, never, even if they get worse, right? Because sometimes the things that are on their list we already don't like, but sometimes they get even worse. So if the things that we don't like about the person doesn't ever change, is that something that we can live with for the rest of our lives? Because those are the deal breakers that we have to be paying attention to. So for instance, if you are dating someone and you want to have a family, you want to have kids, and they say, well, I'm not sure if I want to have kids, or, I'm not sure if I want to have multiple kids. Maybe I'm okay with having one, but I don't want to have 2, 3, or 4, and you think, oh, I want to have a tribe, then we need to pay attention that those are things that could be deal breakers, right? So, or if it's a person who you are very spiritual, you are a tither, you read your word, going to church is very important to you, or maybe they go to church, or maybe they believe in God, but they're not necessarily, walking in the faith, or serving in the faith, and maybe you are a servant in the faith, where you believe in being there and being active and productive and all this stuff, then those are things that could be real deal breakers. You think, oh, just because they're saved, just because they've accepted Christ, you think it's not going to be an issue. But when you get in the marriage and you're ready to get up to go to church every Sunday, or they're seeing, a large part of your salary going to the church, it's going to be an issue, right? It's going to be an issue because they don't feel the same way about that as you do. And so where you think it may not be a problem in the beginning, it could end up being a very big problem. So these are those types of things that we need to be paying attention to. Those little, red flags, or, puddles, as Apostle called them, little puddles. So yes, where was I? Let me see. Yeah, so those are things that could be deal breakers. Chef says, once I go and get submitted to my husband, married life became amazing. I had to let go. Now I'm working on effective communication. I tend to speak as a supervisor versus a partner. Woo, that's big. That's big. That's really big, Chef. I love that. First of all, let's talk about that whole submission thing. Woo. Now, if any of you all, I'm going to drop the link again, just in case anybody wants to come up. I don't want you to feel like you're not welcome, because you are. This is our community. This is our safe space to talk. So if you all feel like you want to come up and share anything, please do. You're open at any time. Okay, so I'll just drop the link every once in a while. But if not, I'll just continue to keep talking. I don't have a problem talking. All right. So the submission, that's number one. Husbands, submit to your wives. Wives, submit to your husbands. That's what the word says. So it goes both ways, right? And people have a problem with that word submission all the time. They feel like it's do as I say and not as I do. They feel like they have a hard time submitting to a man or a woman who was, we'll talk about, or a person who's not following Christ. If they're not submitting to God, then how am I going to submit to them? I see arguments around this everywhere, all around the table. But that's the first thing. The Bible talks about wives submitting to your husband and husbands submitting to your wives. It goes both ways. That does not mean that the husband is not the head of the house, that he's not the leader, that he was not set to be, the headship of your home. That is the truth. But that doesn't mean that your husband is not supposed to take what you say or your thoughts and into consideration. That you should have a voice in your home. You still have to follow God. You still have to follow Christ. You still have to follow, the things that he says. But if your husband feels differently, then you have to consider that as well. You can share with them. And this was a conversation I had with one of my girlfriends that I thought was so profound. And I thought, isn't that the truth? She said, I don't mind submitting. I don't have an issue submitting, Ruth. The issue that I have with submitting is when I know he's wrong and I have to submit anyway. I have to submit anyway, because now I'm having to suffer for the bad decision that he's making when I knew it was wrong from the start, right? So let's say he's making a decision to want to make a purchase, and for a big purchase, right? He wants to make an investment into the home. And that it's not going to be a good decision, but yet he decides that this is something that he feels that you all should do. And so he goes ahead and does it. And now your finances are suffering because he went ahead and made this decision. And now you all have to live with that decision that was made, and suffer. And that was where she really had a hard time. And those things absolutely do happen. And it happens on both sides. Sometimes I do things that may not have been in the best interest of our family that my husband has to suffer from because I jumped before I thought, or I jumped before I even talked with him about it. These things happen in a marriage. But the bottom line is that you all are a team, you're a unit, you're one. And you have to, figure out how you're going to support each other in those decisions and do the things, get out of those circumstances that sometimes we can put each other in. The second part of that, she says she's working on effective communication and she tends to speak as a supervisor and not as a partner. I find this also to be an issue with women who are in leadership roles and positions in their lives. If you're a CEO, if you are a supervisor, if you are someone that's in an authoritative, if your career is somewhat in an authoritative, state, then it is hard to sometimes shift from being that leader on the job to having to be the wife at home. Okay. And getting out of that role of okay, everyone typically does what I say on my job and in my office, or, in my kitchen, so to speak. But when I'm at home, I have to remember that my husband is the head, and that he is, the authoritative figure, on issues, and we have to sort of, follow his suggestions, or, what he thinks that we should do. And that can be a difficult thing for women to do. It can be a difficult shift to make. And I've seen that a lot of times. And there are times, I'll be honest with you, I may have even done it myself. One of the things that has helped my husband and I is that we realize that we both have strengths that are different. I'm stronger in certain areas and he's stronger in certain areas. And what we have done is because we have learned each other, lived with each other for, an extended period of time now, we know what our strengths and weaknesses are. So instead of us fighting, over who should do this or who should do that, we have sat down and said, okay, he's like, Ruth, you're strong in these areas. You handle this particular, situation. When these issues come up, that's your baby, and then when I have certain things that I know that I'm not as strong at, and he's a little stronger in those areas, I'm like, hey, honey, that's all you right there. Have at it, And so we have allowed ourselves to be strong in the areas that we are strong in. And that makes a huge difference in how our marriage functions. Okay. So we don't fight each other. So we don't have to fight each other. We're like, oh, I want to do it. I want to do it. Or you should do it, right? Because you are the husband. That's another thing that gets us in trouble. Sometimes we feel like just because you are the wife, you should be doing these things, or just because you are the husband, these are the things that you should be doing, right? This is where we get tricky with the whole expectations thing, where sometimes we have to put those expectations aside and say, I'm stronger in this area, so let me handle this. Can you trust me in this area to take care of this? Because I can handle this. I can do this. And then we do the same with them. I can trust you in this area because I know you're strong with this and I don't have to worry about it. It's going to be, good. And use your strengths to your benefit. So, but when it comes, also watch your conversation, when you are an authoritative figure, on your job, when you come home, sometimes you have to soften your tone. You have to change your approach. It can't be go do this or pick up that or do this. It's, honey, would you mind doing this? When you get time, will you find some time to do this for me? Or do you have anything else going on? I need to get this done. Is this something you can help me with? Right? You have to change our conversation. And that can be a difficult shift, for people to do. So if you think about how you would normally say something, sit back think for just 1 minute, just wait 1 minute and think about how you could say it differently, right? Because, we treat others, do unto others as we would have them do unto us. So if we don't want our spouses talking to us in an authoritative, way, then we have to think about how we're speaking to them as well. And then we have to be willing to express to each other how we could say it better. Okay. Don't be afraid to say, I realize that this is something you want me to do or something you need me to do. But I would feel much better about doing it if you would ask me this way, or if you would approach me this way, instead of just saying, hey, do this. Hey, why isn't this done? I thought you were going to do that, or I thought you were going to take care of that, right? So we have to stop them at that very moment and say, hey, I realize that this is something that you want done, or this is important to you, but if you want me to get on board with you with this, it would be better if you would approach me like this, right? And 9 times out of 10, if they love you, they're going to do what you ask, right? Men or women, this goes both ways. Now I got hung up on your comment, Chef, because I had so much to unpack in that little bit. So let me go back and look at the statement. Living Best says, deal breaker is respect. When I lose respect for them, we are done. Woo! Yes. Now you have said a word there. respect is everything. Men want respect, women want love, and women want respect too, but respect is 10 times more important for a man than it is for a woman. And love is 10 times more important for a woman than respect. So, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but respect is everything for a man. And I can always tell when a marriage has lost respect when I see how the woman talks to the man. And I can always tell where the love is in a relationship when I see how the man treats the woman. It makes a huge difference. It says everything about it. Let's see. Nikki says, absolutely. Are you willing to compromise? Yes, you have to be willing to compromise in marriage. Marriage is work. Marriage is a job. Relationships. My husband and I just had this conversation. Relationships is a business. Love is not enough. Love is not enough. If love was enough, people would never break up. They would never divorce, but it's not. People divorce because they have issues outside of love. And so if you don't get that business part of marriage right, if you don't get that spiritual part of marriage right, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle if you're not equally yoked. And equally yoked is not just I'm saved, he's saved, or I'm saved, she's saved. Right? It's more than just that. It's about how we feel, how we think, how we approach life, in everything that we do. It all matters. How we communicate, how we talk, how we communicate, how we move, how we do things, how we treat each other. Those things also are also a part of being equally yoked. Another deal breaker is when you tell one thing, but once in the marriage, you show something different. Yes. We deal a lot with that as well. You are right, Unbroken Sylvia. And that's why I say you need to be paying attention to those physical and those physical things, sometimes more than what a person says out of their mouths. Excuse me. And I've been in that situation where, a person can promise you the world. Right? We are good at talking. We are good at, saying this and, oh, I'm going to do this for you. And I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to cook for you every day. I'm going to make sure that you have everything that you need. Right? I'm going to, buy you everything you want. Right? We're good at that. And when we're in love, we really do mean it. We really do. But once we get in the marriage and things start happening, that we didn't expect, we start feeling a different kind of way, and we don't want to do those things, and we don't feel so loving, and we don't feel like we want to be doing all those things that we promised that we would do. And so that can be a big issue. And that's why we're having this conversation tonight, those things that we need to be paying attention to, so that we can not be so surprised and try to find those deal breakers. What are going to be those deal breakers for us, before we get into the marriage, so that things don't have to be such a surprise when we enter into a marriage. Let's see. Unbroken says, I don't mind submitting, but it was taken out of hand. A person should take in your voice. Absolutely. If you don't have a voice in your relationship, you're not going to have a voice in your marriage. So, and you absolutely need to feel like you matter. You need to feel like you matter, whether you're the husband or the wife. Okay. Whoever you're in relationship, if your voice is not being heard, if it's not even being taken into consideration, if people just do what they want to do, regardless of anything that you say, that is a huge red flag, right? That is a huge puddle that is probably going to end up being a lake. Very soon, if we're not paying attention. So yes, you absolutely should have a voice. The man is the protector and the provider. He is the head of the household, and the woman is the nurturer, the neck that turns the head to make the man see 360 for family safety. I like that. I like that. Yes, the protector and the provider, the head of the house. The woman is the nurturer, and the neck that turns the head. Yes, I agree with that. But men are also nurturers as well. Don't think that just because And I don't think that you're saying that, Vernell, that men aren't nurturers, but I just don't want you all to miss that men are also nurturers as well. If you remember in the Bible, in the beginning in Genesis, Adam was the one who had to tend the garden. He's the one who had to take care of all the animals. He was the caretaker of everything on earth before a woman even entered the world. So it is within a man to be a caretaker, to be a nurturer. Women, we do it on a whole nother level, but it is within the man to be able to do that. And we need not miss that point. So don't think that just because they're a man, that they are incapable of showing love, of showing nurture, of showing caring and all that, because that's not true. Men were also designed to be caretakers and nurturers. And we saw that in Adam. Let's see. She says, yes, I have to take off the chef hat and the team lead hat and become a wife. It's getting a lot better now. I wasn't aware at first, but when you know better, you do better. Bridle my tongue. Absolutely. Honey, do you mind? Bae, do you mind? Absolutely. Would you be willing to? These are all words that I've had to incorporate in my marriage, in my conversation. I also add please and thank you to my words a lot. I start my conversations off with thank you for doing this, but when you get a chance, would you please do this, right? You think those little things don't make a big difference? They make a huge difference. Gratitude, appreciation, they make a huge difference in our marriage, and you absolutely need to incorporate those words into your conversation. There is not a thing my husband does in this house that I don't thank him for. Rarely, if he washes the dishes, if he does our laundry every week, if he puts gas in my car, he washes my car, whatever he does, hon, thank you for doing that. Oh, babe, I appreciate you taking my car and getting it clean, right? It's not a big deal. It's not something I make a big deal about. It's just something that I say, hey, I noticed this. I appreciate you, or he'll say to me, babe, dinner was really good tonight. That was really tasty. Or, thank you for picking up my medication at the pharmacy. These are all things that he and I both incorporate into our conversations with each other. We don't have to do it. We don't have to do these things, but it makes a difference in how we see each other, how we talk to each other, how we show love and appreciation. It's not just about the doing, but it's also about the words that we express it. People think just because they do it, doesn't mean that you should have to say anything about it. Well, I shouldn't have to say anything about it. I did it. Well, yeah, you did it, but show appreciation. Let them know you're thankful for the things that they do, because people don't have to do things. We don't have to do things. Marriage is a choice. We choose to be married. We choose to share our lives with other people. And so it's nice for them to hear that we still love them, that we still appreciate them. This is Valentine's Day. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Thank your spouse. Thank the person that you're in relationship with for something that they do. It may mean more to them than those candied hearts or those chocolate covered strawberries. Tell them, write a list of all the things that why I love you, why I'm thankful for you, why you make a difference, why you matter in this house, why you matter in this marriage. Write that down for them and share with them what you do. Thank you for taking me to my doctor's appointments. Thank you for, going to work every day, for being responsible, for bringing your money home, for contributing to our house, contributing to our home, for taking care of our children, all these things. Write it down and give that to them instead of picking up a card. Write those things down for them, and you might be amazed at the response that you receive. Okay. And that was free. Let me go back. Did I miss? What did I miss? Nobody wants to come up and talk tonight. Okay, that's fine. No worries. No worries. Let's see. Yeah, so have a voice. Okay, that was where we ended up. Let's see. We did that. I'm sorry. Yes. Let's see. Mine was about how to discipline and raise our children. Ooh, yes, that can be a big deal breaker. Yes, that is a very important conversation to have. Yes, how you want to raise your children. How are you going? Something my husband and I talked about that was very critical My husband had children before we got married, and then we also had children together. So that's a whole show in and of itself. Combining, being a step parent and treating the children. I'm not even going to get in that tonight because that's a whole nother episode. We may do that in the future, but not right now. But yes, how you discipline and raise your children. One of the things that was important, that was a deal breaker for my husband, is that we were not going to allow our children to sort of undermine our authority from either one of us. So for instance, if my husband says something to the children, then that's what it is. There's no me coming behind and say, oh, don't worry about what your dad said. Go ahead and, have this or do that or whatever it was. And if I say something that, no, you can't have this, no, you're not doing this, then he doesn't undermine my authority. It's, what did your mother say? Did she give you, did she give you permission? Because kids are smart. They will pick up on it. And for sometimes we'll miss it. Like sometimes they sneak behind at 3. Now remind you, mine are just 3. I will tell my daughter, no, she can't have something. And not 2 seconds later, she will bring her dad into the kitchen where I am as if she's saying, get her daddy, get her daddy. She told me no. And he'll say, what's going on, right? You told her she couldn't have some. I say, yes, we're about to have dinner, and no, she cannot have a snack. And he'd look at her and she'd look at him, and he would say, okay, mommy said no snack. And she would just, put her head down and get upset. But that's what it was. That's our rule. You don't undermine my authority. I don't undermine yours. If it's something we need to talk about, we may talk about it later for a future date. But at that time, our no is no, my no is no, his no is no, or whatever it is, that's what it is. And so those are things that you have to be willing to talk about, because if your authority is being undermined in the house as a mother or as a husband, then that's going to be a problem with the children, and they'll forever play you all against each other. And so that's something you'll want to talk about in the dating phase of the relationship. What's appropriate in front of the kids? I'm very, very cautious about what my kids are exposed to, what they hear, what they see, what they are experiencing, who they're around, how people are talking around them, what's being said to them, how people are talking to them. Obviously, I'm a communication person. You can imagine how I feel about people talking crazy to my kids or saying crazy things around my kids. It irritates me very much. And this for sure, has been an issue that we've had to deal with, where my husband is more, people are going to be people. He'll let people say the things they want to say, do what they want to do, whatever. He doesn't worry about it. If it's an issue if it's something that I don't like, then I'll remove my kids from the situation. I'll say, okay, we're leaving. I'm taking the kids and we're leaving here, and you can stay here and socialize with this, but I'm not going to expose my kids to this, because here's my thing. I don't like my kids being exposed to things before I have an opportunity to teach them what I want them to know, or what I feel is good for them to know. And because I feel that way, anytime I feel that they're being exposed to something that I have not had the opportunity to prepare them for, or to teach them about, then I try to remove them from that situation. And that's the understanding that we have. And he doesn't fight me on that. So, and that's sort of how we feel. Or he knows that if he's somewhere, and things are going on that I wouldn't necessarily be pleased about, then he knows that let me get my kids out of this, because I know I don't want to hear their mom's mouth. That's exactly what he'll say. I don't want to hear their mom's mouth, because I don't want them because she's not going to want them being exposed to things that I don't want them to be exposed to yet. And that's just sort of our rule. So, my husband respects the way I feel about that. I respect the way he feels, and that's how we work that. But yes, you are absolutely right. How you treat your children can be a huge deal breaker. Kevin always say, I might, if you ask nicely, absolutely. And that's his way of telling you, I need you to come at me differently. And my husband will even say that to me. Can you say it another way? Right? Can you say that another way? Because maybe he didn't like the way I came at him, right? With the situation. And sometimes I have to check myself. I have to check my tone. I have to check my approach. I have to check my words. And of course, you all can imagine he holds me to a higher standard just because, he's like, okay, Miss Talk, can you say that another way? And so I adjust what I have to say because he'll call me out quick. All right. Janine, yes, mine too. Woo. Let's see, ladies, it was such a struggle because my husband, is from another culture. Oh, yes, that was huge. Yes, that's a huge one. If you are dating somebody from a different culture, it is very important. Oh, I didn't even realize it was already an hour. Yes, I did not even realize that, guys. Okay, I will go here for a few more minutes. I appreciate you all staying on. An hour has gone by super fast. Thank goodness I'm looking. Yes, when you're dating somebody from a different culture, man, get to know their culture. Get to know their culture. Spend time with their culture because as much as you can. And I know sometimes it's difficult. If you're dating someone who's from another, country, it can be very difficult to spend time, in their culture. But as much as you can, really pay attention because cultural differences can be huge. Some cultures have hierarchies, and how they treat each other. They have like sort of this sort of familial hierarchy thing that you have to pay attention to. Some cultures have different religious practices. They may say they're Christians or Jews or Catholics or whatever they are, whatever their cultures are, but they may practice things very differently. And that may be something that you all need to talk about. How they see money. How they take care of their families with money. That's another huge thing that people need to pay attention to, because some cultures, a lot of cultures, especially a lot of overseas cultures, they believe in supporting the family. It is a regular part of the budget, right? This much money goes here to take care of my family. And if that is not what you were anticipating or intending, then y'all need to absolutely have that conversation because that may be a deal breaker, or if it's not a deal breaker for you, you may need to determine, okay, how much of a budget are we going to set to do this? Because they may think that this much of a budget is okay, when you may think, oh no, this much of a budget is okay. So these are things that we need to talk about. If you're having cultural difference, how you raise your children, how you treat your children, how you talk to your children, cultural differences can be huge. I don't discourage people from marrying outside of their culture. You marry who you love, you marry who God, puts in front of you, you marry who you feel connected to, whatever that is within the realms of the word. Marry who you feel you're being led to. But it should not stop. Cultural difference don't have to stop you from getting married, but you do need to pay attention. You may have to do a lot of adjusting and a lot of compromising on how you interact with each other and how you move and how your marriage is going to be. And make sure that that person is willing to compromise. Because if they're unwilling to compromise, hey, this is who I am, this is what we do, this is how we're going to be running things in this house, then that may be a deal breaker for you. Okay. Make sure that both of y'all are going to be willing to meet each other halfway, or don't think and prayerfully, it won't be a situation where they agree to yes to everything. And then once you get married, they change it up, because that happens too. You can't avoid those things. Those things do happen. Sometimes people will promise and say everything. And then once they get married, they do the complete opposite. You don't have control over those things. And from there, you just have to work and try to do your best to make it work and or do what you need to do. But that's why we have to really be paying attention to the actions and try to put ourselves in their space, in their culture, in their community as much as possible, because those things absolutely do happen. Let's see, you have to be able to function as a couple outside of the sheets. Oh, yes, absolutely. Those sheets will get you in trouble. That's why you have to stay out of the sheets before you get married, because once you get in those sheets before you get married, you've created a soul tie. And soul ties are very hard to break once you create them. They're hard to walk away from. It's kind of like putting a piece of Scotch tape, on your clothing. Every time you lay down with a person, you are attaching yourself to them. And even no matter how many times you pull that piece of tape off, you're always going to have residue. And that residue is never going to be completely clear from that residue is never going to be completely clear from that piece of tape. They're always going to be with you. And so when we create soul ties with people, yes, it can be very difficult to make rash, spiritual, conscious, healthy decisions about who we are going to be with. Janine says, Sylvia, I hear you. Unbroken says, in them sheets too, sis. Some people don't want to talk about those closed door situations that you don't agree upon. Absolutely. Them sheets get us in trouble. And we're so quick to jump in them. We're so quick to want to jump in them. Lord knows, especially if you've been single for a while and that person comes along, you absolutely want to jump in those sheets because, we're human. And we have desires and we have longing, and it's not wrong to want those things. And that's all the reason why we need to be married. The word talks about it's better to be married than to burn. And that doesn't mean necessarily burn in hell, but to burn with that desire. If you are single and you are constantly having that desire to want to be, with a person, then you need to be married. You need to be married. So figure out who you can be married to and stay married to. Who has enough stuff that you can deal with it if those things never change. Okay. And that is so good. Very wise information. Let me see. I'm behind. I'm so sorry. I'm missing all these good comments. Yes, this is good and needed. Bless. I'm so glad you all are hearing this. Actions speak louder than words. Don't talk about it, be about it. Yes, absolutely. Sylvia, true. I was taught at an early age, don't go by words, go by actions. Yes. I teach my children. Let's see. It's sad when he would promise the children he would do or take them places and then don't do it. Yes, really no excuse for it because he's tired and doesn't want to do it. So stop believing that he would do it. Yes, that's so true. And that's the worst part of it is when, I didn't realize I was so far behind. That's so true when, how they treat the children. And you have to sit down and have a conversation about the kids, because when they are making promises to the kids and you have to prep your children for the disappointment. Oh, that's a whole nother conversation, unbroken. That's a whole nother conversation. So yeah, but if you can at all possible, try to talk with the spouse or with the significant other, whoever it is, and let them know the damage that they're causing to the children. Try to separate yourself, you all's relationship, and focus on the children. When people are divorced, you really do have to try to learn to separate your personal feelings towards each other to what's going to be best for the kids. And the sooner you can do that, the better off you will be. But I know that it is not easy and it often takes time to get there. Let's see, in my 20s, I said I would never marry someone with children. So I met my husband. He lied about having a child. I found out later in our relationship he had a child, even though I asked him early on. People lie. People lie. They do. You have to be prepared for that. It is not ideal. It is not what you would want. But they lie. They lie. And it's heartbreaking and it's very damaging to the relationship because it causes us to question what else are you lying about? It just snowballs into, what all have you lied about? And now we're constantly not trusting the person. It develops, that's where that lack of trust begins to come in. Quite interesting conversation, Eve. Let's see. Yes, that is funny how our husbands hold us to a standard. Miss Talk. Yes, my husband will say, don't be negative. Yes, 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 absolutely. Yes, you know exactly what I deal with. Let's see. Yes, if you're dating someone from another culture, you can get there from YouTube is your best friend. Back in the day, we didn't have that. Yes, you can learn a lot. Oh, if y'all need to what was it? 90 Day Fiance. I love that show. You can learn about all kind of cultures and things that you need to pay attention to because the things that they deal with on that show just happens in a lot of cultures. So you can pick up on a lot of those things that you may have to deal with when you're trying to be in a relationship with someone with cultural differences. Yes, soul ties are hard to break. That's probably my mama always say, watch who you lay with. Absolutely. Lay down with dogs, you're going to catch fleas. That's what my mom used to say. Let's see. Woo, this live has birthed some other topics I'm looking forward to hearing you address. You're right. You're absolutely right about that, Chef. You are right. All right, guys, I'm going to get off this line. I appreciate you all. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. No one wanted to come up, so I hope y'all, got something out of what I said tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. I enjoyed it. I like to do these open forums and just open discussions where you all can, ask questions, talk to me. I can talk to you all. I get to share some things with you all about me. And I like learning things about you all. So I appreciate you all being here. I'm going to say a quick prayer and then we'll head out. All right. Father, thank you for your love, your grace, your mercy, the blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day that we do not deserve. Thank you for who you are in our lives. Thank you for putting up with us. Thank you for reminding us that we are not perfect, that we need to walk in integrity and stand for who we are, and stand up in who we are in you. Father, help us to not fall into the temptations of this world. We have to remind ourselves each and every day that we are in this world, but we are not of this world. So we have to move differently. We have to talk differently. We have to think differently. And we have to stand boldly in that difference each and every day. The enemy is trying to come at us every which way in our homes, in our marriages, with our children, with the people we work with, the people we interact with each and every day. Even our own thoughts, Lord, can cause us to get in trouble and to fall into temptation. So, Father, help to keep our minds and our hearts steady in your word. Help us to keep our lives stayed upon you in all that we do so that we can stay focused, so that we can remember who we are and whose we are, because we are called to be the light of this world. And we are not called to function the same way the world functions. When they look at us, they should see something different. When we walk in the room, the atmosphere should shift and change because we're present and you are within us and therefore you are present. So Father, give us the strength that we need to overcome the temptations. Help us to stand boldly in who we are in you. Help us to not miss the things that we need to see. We'll open our eyes, open our hearts, open our understanding. Help us to stand firm in the things that we need not compromise on, and to talk boldly for the things that we stand for. Father, we love you. We thank you. Bless each and every person in the live tonight, and those who'll be watching the replay. These things I ask in your son Jesus' name. Amen. All right, guys. Good to see. Thank you all for being here. And I'll see you all Monday morning or for class. All right. We're doing the letter U. Yeah, the letter U. Not sure what that's going to be just yet, but it'll be good. All right. I'll talk to you all soon. Y'all have a good night. Thank you all for being here. Love each and every one of you all. Be the light. You can do it. You can do it. And pay attention. Okay. Bye-bye.